Okay, hello. I'm going to talk about the Nephilim. Now, look, one thing you got to understand: the first generation of Nephilim were handsome, okay, because you have a handsome angels mating with a beautiful woman, okay. So that first generation were handsome. That's why they were men of renown. They were tall, dark, and very handsome. Okay, so the first generation was handsome. They were not these fanged monsters that you see on YouTube with one eye and all that business. Okay. The scripture does not tell us how long the pregnancy was. Okay. Because this African woman says she had six children by a fallen angel, six boys and six girls. That's where these dark eyed children are coming from. And the fallen angels are still mating with human women. They still doing it, probably women all over the world, blah, blah, blah. Because demons can they have sex with human women, but they cannot mate because they just can't. They don't have any more body. They can't manifest their bodies anymore. They can't do that. But see, the fallen angels still have their body, so they can still have sex, and they can still produce. Okay, but I think that the Nephilim, you have the Nephilim. The Nephilim continue to mate with human beings, the next generation. So now you got the Nephilim, which is the first generation, mating with more human women. And so it just went on and on and on. And of course, they became corrupt because the earth is corrupt. The earth is full of sin. So they all became corrupt. God destroyed them. And then here comes Noah's flood to destroy everything. Now, the scripture does not tell us how many years passed between the first incursion and Noah's flood, because the writer of Genesis, which is who Moses, he was shocked himself. That's why he didn't give a lot of details, because he was so shocked that the angels would mate with human women. He just said it happened, but he didn't give a lot of details. The pregnancy was 3 days or even 6 days. He did not say how many years passed between the first generation and the flood. He didn't say that because he was so shocked himself that that happened. Okay. Um, so um, so then after the flood, it destroyed that whole world because it was highly corrupt. And then there was another incursion. Why? Because Moses said also after that. Okay, let's break up the word also. Also what? Also it happened again. Okay. Also what happened again? An incursion into the human realm. After that, what is that? After the first incursion. So you have to break up the words. So there was another incursion after the flood, because all of a sudden Joshua was dealing with giants. King David's dealing with giants. Saul's dealing with giants. Now God said He won't destroy the world by a flood. Now He'd be doing that every 300 years. If He destroyed the world again with a flood, He'd be destroying every 300 years. So I think that what happened, those giants asked God, they say, look, we won't bother mankind. Just let's go into the crags and caves of the rocks. So that's what God let them do that. Now, God did kill or have His angels kill some, because, the fossils got holes in the head and so on. But you got to understand, these Nephilim are half angelic and half human. So immortality has met with mortality. So that's why, okay, so now we have giants from Joshua's after the flood till now, there are still giants on the earth. Okay. And if you see a giant, they could be like 10,000 years old, 20,000 years old, 500 years old. We don't know how old they are. Now, I don't believe about those giants. I don't believe those were giants in the Western world, because I think those are just tricks of the picture, because, some of them had suspenders. Now, who's going to make a suspender for a giant? Okay. And who's going to make all those long dresses for the giant women? So I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So I think those are just tricks of the camera, however they use those tricks. But more power to them if they can know how to do that. Okay. But there's a lot of beings. See, the angel, you gotta understand that the angels, the fallen angels, are a million times smarter than man. So they don't even need a microscope to do anything. They can just see it. They can look and see the genetic code. Okay, so they made micro human beings too. I think that's where people got those elves and dwarfs and gnomes and things like that. I think that's where that comes from. Because they decided to do some genetic engineering and make some micro human beings. So, and of course, they became evil. They had no choice but to become evil because they're ruled by Satan. Okay. They can't go to heaven because Jesus only died for man. He did not die for mankind. They can't go to hell because hell was made for the devil and his angels. It wasn't even made for high birth. So when they died, they had to be confined to the earth. But that's why you see those fairies and those gnomes. They could be 10,000 years old. They micro human beings, and they still have a breeding population. Okay, they can't die, but yet they have to die because they have some mortality in them. I don't know how that works. Okay, now the book of Enoch said that the fallen angels defiled themselves with lizards, uh, crayfish, worms, and any such animal. Okay, so that's why you see all these pictures of these hideous creatures that look like praying mantis, but yet it's 10 feet tall and all this stuff. Um, so that's what happened there. Some of these creatures are still living. I mean, just by the videos that's um, coming across social media. If you see any one of those creatures, you got to understand they can be 10,000 years old, 20,000 years old, and they part fallen angel and part something else. Maybe part a lizard, maybe part praying mantis, maybe part lobster. I don't know. Um, but they're upright. A lot of them are upright, which tells me either they have human DNA or angelic DNA, and they could be 10,000 years old, 20,000 years old, because they can't die, but yet they have to die. Um, so what I heard, and let's talk about the Bigfoot for a minute. What I heard, the Bigfoot is a cross between an Italian and a female gorilla. That happened in probably about 1500. Because the Italian explorers first they went to Africa to say hello to the natives. The natives gave them some pets. See, the female gorilla is very small. Okay, it's the male gorillas are so huge. So that's why those Bigfoot had those long hairs. Now, if it was African, if it was an African, the Bigfoot would have woolly hair and wouldn't survive. But that Bigfoot seems to be surviving with that long Italian hair. Okay, but it's obviously the Bigfoot is what part Italian and part female gorilla, and they have a breeding population. Some of them are big, but look, if you eat wilderness food, you're gonna be tall. Okay, but look, for the last 100 years at least, I've been hearing that Bigfoot human beings have been mating with the Bigfoot. Uh, human males have been mating with the female Bigfoot. Uh, human females have been mated with the male Bigfoot. That's what I'm hearing, and there are a lot of those feral children out there. And they look human, but they got very rough features. Now that I think that most of those are real. They got rough features, and some of those hybrids have children and grandchildren. So when they die, um, they cannot go. There's no redemption plan for them. They cannot go to heaven. They cannot go to hell. So they have to be confined to the earth. But some of those part Bigfoot and part human, for the last hundred, they have been born in the last 100 years or so. They look very human. It's just that they have a heightened sense of strength, a heightened sense of smell. They can see in the dark and so on because they 75% human, 25% gorilla. There's no redemption for them. There's no redemption for the hybrids. They don't go to heaven. They can't go to hell because they don't qualify for hell either. Because animals don't go to hell. Okay. You know what? God never told us what he put in hell. He bragged about what he put on the earth, the mountains, the stars, and the moon, and the flowers, and the animals. He bragged about what he put on earth, what he created on earth, but he was so mad, he didn't even talk about what he put in hell. All we know is the lake of fire. That's all we know. So we don't know very much because God didn't brag about what he put in hell. And I'm thinking, there's huge snakes down there. That's what people have seen that they saw huge snakes, um, huge spiders and whatnot. So those Nephilim can't go to hell. They don't qualify for hell because hell was made for the devil and his angels and mankind. And mankind's going to hell. Okay. So they stay confined to the earth. So there's no redemption for them. So I'm saying that to say this: be careful who you marry. You don't know if you're marrying someone who's half human part and whose father or mother was a Bigfoot, because they look human. Okay, so be careful who you marry. And look, you're going to meet some humans that you're about to marry or something who are so evil. No, they're devils, really, because they're so evil. Okay. So be careful here who you marry. Please pray about who you marry. Don't marry these hybrids. Don't marry these demonic people. Okay. Please pray about who you should marry and who you should get involved with. Thank you. Bye.